A huge new Pixel 11 leak just dropped, and if even half of it is accurate, Google's next flagship lineup is shaping up to be the biggest Pixel hardware refresh in years. Not because the phones look radically different, but because the internals, the camera hardware, and even the signature camera bar design may be getting meaningful upgrades. According to a new report shared by leaker Mystic Leaks, we're looking at an unusually detailed breakdown of the entire Pixel 11 series. That includes the base Pixel 11, Pixel 11 Pro, Pixel 11 Pro XL, and the Pixel 11 Pro Fold, plus a deep dive into the next Tensor chip, new camera sensors, and a brand new Pixel Glow lighting feature that could change how the back of the phone looks and functions. Let's start with the headline detail that matters most for performance, efficiency, and future Android features: Tensor G6. The leak claims the Pixel 11 series will be powered by Google Tensor G6 with a 1+4+2 CPU configuration, using newer ARM C1 cores. On the graphics side, it's said to use a PowerVR C-Series CXTP481536 GPU. Security would reportedly be handled by an updated Titan M3 chip, and connectivity could see one of the biggest behind-the-scenes changes Google has made in years. A MediaTek M90 modem, listed as MT6986D. If that modem detail is real, it's a big deal because it would suggest Google is finally moving away from the Samsung Exynos modems it's relied on for multiple Pixel generations. For everyday users, that could translate into better reception consistency, improved battery efficiency on mobile data, and potentially fewer of the thermal and signal complaints that tend to follow modem discussions every year. Modems are not flashy, but they have a massive effect on real-world phone experience, especially in weak coverage areas, crowded venues, or while traveling. The same leak also mentions a new TPU and a new GXP, which is described as Google's custom image signal processor. And that ties directly into the other major part of this leak: camera hardware upgrades across the Pixel 11 lineup. Google is famous for doing more with software than hardware, so when leaks suggest actual sensor changes, it's worth paying attention. For the base Pixel 11, the leak points to a new main camera sensor codenamed KeyMosh, believed to be a 50-megapixel sensor. That same KeyMosh main sensor is also said to appear on the Pixel 11 Pro Fold, which could mean Google is aiming for more consistent photo quality between the standard slab Pixel and the foldable Pixel, something users have been asking for as foldables become more mainstream. For the Pixel 11 Pro and Pixel 11 Pro XL, the leak claims Google is swapping in new sensors codenamed Bastet for the main camera and Barguest for the telephoto. Exact specs aren't included here, so we don't know sensor size, aperture, or zoom range changes. But even without the full numbers, the fact that Google may be updating both the main and telephoto hardware is significant. It suggests Google is not just tweaking processing this year. It may be building new camera tuning around fresh hardware, which could impact everything from low light performance to motion clarity, HDR behavior, portrait separation, and zoom detail. Now here's where the leak turns from interesting into, you'll actually notice this immediately. The Pixel 11 design might add lighting to the camera bar. The report says the Pixel 11 Pro models will drop the built-in temperature sensor and replace it with Pixel Glow, a lighting element built into the camera bar itself. It's described as similar in spirit to Nothing's glyph concept, with small LEDs positioned near the flash. If Google really does this, it's not just a cosmetic change. This could become a functional feature for notifications, timers, recording, indicators, call alerts, or even camera-related status lights. And honestly, removing the thermometer wouldn't upset many people. It was one of those features that sounded cool in a keynote, but rarely became essential day-to-day. If Google swaps it for something more immediately useful and more visible, that's the kind of change that can make a phone feel new without redesigning the entire chassis. The leak also lists a pretty complete set of rumored specs for each Pixel 11 model, and while some of it sounds like a natural evolution, there are a few details worth highlighting. For the Pixel 11, the leak claims a 6.3-inch display at 1080x2424, running 60-120 Hz, with 240 Hz PWM dimming and up to 2200 nits peak brightness. Battery is listed at 4,140 mAh minimum capacity, with RAM options at 8 GB or 12 GB. Colors mentioned are black, green, pink, and purple. If these numbers are accurate, the base Pixel 11 seems aimed at hitting a balanced, flagship-light sweet spot, high refresh rate, solid brightness, and enough RAM to keep Google's on-device AI features feeling snappy. For the Pixel 11 Pro, the leak lists a 6.3-inch display at 1280x2856 with a 120Hz adaptive refresh rate, 240Hz PWM, and up to 2450 nits. Battery is listed at 4,707 mAh minimum capacity and RAM options at 12GB or 16GB. The Pro model looks like it's doubling down on premium display calibration and adaptive refresh, exactly the kind of thing you feel every time you scroll, watch HDR video, or use the camera outdoors. For the Pixel 11 Pro XL, the leak claims a 6.8-inch display at 1344x2992, also 120Hz with 240Hz PWM and up to 2450 nits. Battery is listed at 5,000 mAh minimum capacity, with 12GB or 16GB RAM. This is the big Pixel formula people already recognize. Maximum screen, maximum battery, top-tier camera system, and the most room for thermals and sustained performance. Especially important if Tensor G6 is designed to push more on-device AI features. Then we get to the Pixel 11 Pro Fold, which may be the most interesting device in this leak, because foldables live and die by their screens and their compromises. The leak lists the inner display at 2076x2160 OLED, 120Hz, up to 2050 nits. The outer display is listed at 1080x2342 OLED, 60-120Hz, up to 2450 nits. Battery is listed at 4,658 mAh minimum capacity, with 12GB or 16GB RAM. That RAM detail is sneaky important. Google's foldables have typically been positioned as no-compromise devices, and in recent years that often meant a single high-end RAM configuration. If Google introduces a 12GB RAM option for the Pixel 11 Pro Fold, it could mean one of two things. Google is trying to offer a lower starting price, or Google is responding to broader supply chain pricing pressure, because the industry has been dealing with real RAM cost volatility. Either way, the existence of a lower RAM tier could change how the Fold is priced, how it's marketed, and how it competes against Samsung's Galaxy Z Fold lineup. One more notable detail from the leak. It claims Google's Project Toscana face unlock hardware is not debuting in the Pixel 11 series. So, if you were expecting a major new face authentication system beyond the current approach, this rumor suggests it's not happening, at least not this generation. As for timing, the leak points to an August launch for the Pixel 11 series, and says the overall design should remain similar to the Pixel 10 lineup. That tracks with Google's recent strategy. Refine the design language, keep the camera bar identity, and focus the real changes on the display, cameras, silicon, and AI features. If you step back and look at this leak as a whole, the Pixel 11 story, assuming it's accurate, sounds like Google is targeting three big wins at once. A more mature Tensor platform with a potentially improved modem situation, real camera hardware upgrades instead of only software tuning, and a visual signature feature on the back of the phone with Pixel Glow that could become a Pixel identity the way the camera bar once did. The big, unanswered questions, of course, are the ones leaks rarely nail this early. Real-world battery life, heat management under sustained load, video recording improvements, and how much of the new silicon is dedicated to making AI features faster and more private on-device. But if these specs hold up, the Pixel 11, Pixel 11 Pro, Pixel 11 Pro XL, and Pixel 11 Pro Fold could be one of Google's most complete flagship lineups yet, especially if Tensor G6 plus a new modem finally delivers the kind of consistency Pixel fans have wanted for years.